Orioles purchased their ace earlier this month and Corbin Burnes with that trade. And today, O's manager Brandon Hyde named their spring opener starter. As far as opening day, Hyde said we'll see on that for Burnes. But it will probably only be a couple innings max for Burnes as he ramps up for the season. But the first Grapefruit League start is his. It's this Saturday against Boston from Sarasota, and fans can watch it. That's a Masson game. Grayson Rodriguez and Dean Kramer will probably soon follow with their own starts and spring debuts, while the rest of the way is going to be having to figure out the Birds' rotation without Kyle Bradish and John Means for now. Mark Turgeon may have started the recruiting bid for Derek Queen before he even played his freshman season at St. Francis, but now the McDonald's All-American and five-star recruit out of a prep school in Florida will soon be home to play at Maryland under Kevin Willard. A huge landing for Willard in only his second season, and the athletic department is excited for this one in College Park, to say the least. The men's basketball handle has this image today. The Baltimore native is one of the nation's top players for the class of 2024, the biggest talent to come to College Park out of high school since Jalen Smith, and highest profiled high school talent since Diamond Stone. McDaniel has its football coach. The Green Terror hired 2011 graduate and former tight end Skylar Foltz. Foltz takes over a program that had an interim head coach and no wins in 2023 after DeMarcus White left following his fourth season. Foltz has been at King's College for the last 9 years, serving as head coach last season. And he played under Tim Keating at McDaniel, the last time the program had a head coach with a winning record.
Morgan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, a Baltimore City school teacher is arrested on accusations of child rape. How the school system is responding. A push for transparency from the Department of Juvenile Services, how lawmakers are trying to tackle juvenile crime through increased accountability.
A Baltimore City school teacher now on administrative leave after he was arrested for rape. The disturbing charging documents and how the district is responding tonight. And a push for accountability in the fight against juvenile crime. Why some lawmakers want to see more transparency from DJS. Two mayoral candidates accuse Mayor Scott of misusing COVID relief funds. Why they're saying the wasted money is unforgivable.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maxine Stryker. New tonight, Baltimore City Schools confirm a teacher is on administrative leave after he was arrested for rape. Mustafa Pitts, who the school system confirms was a teacher at the Reach Partnership School, is accused of raping a minor family member for years. Pitts faces 7 charges, including rape, sexual abuse, and abuse. Court documents show he was arrested earlier this month after an adult contacted police. The document says the victim later told investigators that Pitts told her to take her clothes off and has been having sex with her for the past 5 years. In a statement, a city school spokesperson says the school system will closely monitor the court proceedings. The statement goes on to say the school system is committed to protecting the welfare of students and staff.
One of the things that I'm concerned about is when we have juveniles that's engaged in a fatal shooting or a non-fatal shooting, I want to understand what is the after action.
A new push to shed some light on how the Department of Juvenile Services is tracking kids under its supervision. New legislation from Senator Cory McCray up for debate today as lawmakers work to address juvenile crime in Maryland. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has the latest tonight from Annapolis.
The bill is called the Department of Juvenile Services Transparency Act of 2024. And today, the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee heard testimony from the sponsor, Senator Cory McCray. It calls for a report to be shared with the public outlining how many kids under its supervision had been involved in a non-fatal or a fatal shooting in the last year. It also requires DJS to report the ages of those kids, where they live, and how the agency responded to the incident in the first place. Senator McCray says the bill was inspired by his own frustration and lack of transparency from DJS.
While we would like to think that life is perfect, at the end of the day, accidents do happen, incidents do happen also. And what we need to do is make sure that if something isn't going in the posture that someone says that it's going, what was the course correction? What was the corrective action that was put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Without information, without access to information, we would not know that information to be able to hold someone accountable or an agency accountable.
Right now, DJS does support this bill. There is an amendment to exclude kids who are charged as an adult or under the supervision of the Department of Corrections from the report. But as it stands now, it doesn't look like there will be many issues for the bill to move forward. There hasn't been a date scheduled yet for this bill, but if it does become law, the first report would be due by the December 1st of this year. In Annapolis, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
If you missed our Your Voice, Your Future panel discussion with Armstrong Williams, you can watch it this Friday on Fox 45 at 11:35 p.m. That's right after the late edition. It will also air on the CW Baltimore this Saturday at 1 p.m. and on MyTV Baltimore on Sunday at 7 p.m.
It is the only way for us to be confident that this $641 million once-in-a-generation gift hasn't been completely frittered away.
Calling it an unforgivable failure tonight, 2 mayoral candidates are accusing Mayor Brandon Scott of mismanaging the city's one-time COVID relief funding in the wake of pandemic hardships. The federal government handed Baltimore City $641 million in American Rescue Plan money, or ARPA. It's money that Mayor Scott's challengers claim he's wasted. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor explains.
Yeah, this federal funding is one of the few positives to come out of the pandemic, but the city only has one shot at spending it on sustainable long-term solutions. And tonight, the mayor's challengers arguing his spending has been short-sighted and self-serving, putting Mayor Brandon Scott's ARPA spending under a microscope.
The mayor appears to have done this with essentially no public input.
Mayoral candidate and former federal and state prosecutor Dhruv Ignaraja combing through where exactly the $641 million is being spent, accusing the mayor of investing in his own campaign, not the city.
Taking $641 million and essentially flushing it down the toilet to repay donors and developers as you gear up for re-election is the biggest, most unforgivable mistake of this mayor's administration.
Comparing Baltimore to other cities across the country, including Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland is a really remarkable example,
where the funding was used to invest $21 million in a massive waterfront development project.
This was the rendering of what they did with $21 million. I'm connecting this with our pledge on Harbor Place, because they didn't invest it in subsidizing another set of developers that had donated to their campaigns to build luxury apartments.
Vignarajah criticizing the mayor's decision to instead invest in a laundry list of nonprofits to the tune of at least $44 million.
The Walters Art Museum and the BMA, incredible institutions in our city. Also institutions that have some of the most affluent board of directors in America.
And in projects that would pad the pockets of some of the mayor's highest paying donors. Vignarajah pointing to the $5 million invested in renovating the historic Lexington Market. Selected to spearhead the project, Seawall Development, whose owners have contributed more than $10,000 to Scott's campaign.
You guys spend any time at Northeast Market? It's an amazing market. Why didn't it get a $5 million facelift?
What happens after that money runs out?
Former mayor and current mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon raising similar concerns, questioning why no money was allocated to the fire department and several other critical city agencies which have long grappled with underfunding.
Mayor Scott has missed a great opportunity, and it really shows the poor leadership and management of the city.
According to the city's ARPA dashboard, although all of the money has been obligated, just 29% has been spent. And if it's not spent by 2026, the city loses that funding. To ensure transparency over how it's spent, both Dixon and Vignarajah now calling for a fiscal audit to be conducted immediately.
It is the only way for us to be confident that this $641 million once-in-a-generation gift hasn't been completely frittered away to repay donors and developers and help improve your re-election chances.
And tonight, the mayor's campaign is responding to the accusations with a statement reading in part, quote, Mayor Scott's handling of this federal funding is contributing to a historic reduction in homicides, reopening and building new rec centers and playgrounds, including some that were closed by former Mayor Sheila Dixon, investing in affordable housing and supporting Baltimore's most vulnerable residents. For all of Mr. Vignarajah's pretend concern, he offered no viable vision for how he would use this funding, which seems to be becoming a pattern of his campaign. To see the mayor's full response, you can find it in this story on our website at foxbaltimore.com. Reporting in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Meanwhile, the county officials are questioning Maryland's Department of Assessments and Taxation Director Michael Higgs after the department failed to send out tax notices to property owners on time. Each year, the department reassesses a third of properties in each county in the state to determine how much a property is worth and how much a homeowner pays in taxes. But more than 100,000 property owners across the state didn't receive those notices. Higgs calls it a simple processing error, but Howard County Executive Calvin Ball is trying to get to the bottom of it.
There are so many people that are not only going to be impacted individually, but as counties are finishing developing our budgets, all of that is going to be impacted. And so we need accurate information immediately.
In a statement, Higgs says that the department is working with the General Assembly to draft legislation giving them more time to fix the problem. The state says everyone who is impacted will have 45 days to appeal their reassessment. Well, we saw some rain this afternoon, but warmer temperatures and clearer skies might be on the way. Here's Chief Meteorologist now, Gerard Jabali, and what's in store for the weekend?
Oh, it's going to be chillier, but we have some spring-like weather happening now. I'm not sure if you heard the thunder outside. I heard a rumble earlier. A few other people have said, was that thunder? I know it kind of catches you by surprise when you haven't heard it in so long. So we're getting almost some spring-like thunderstorm activity. However, it's still pretty chilly outside. Watching as the rain is moving across and we continue to get batches of these scattered showers with some heavier embedded rainfall. Here's some heavy stuff that's moving all the way down the I-95 corridor, everywhere just north of Essex, all the way up to almost the Delaware border. So we're continuing to watch that and continuing to trail off and out of the way. But we will still see some scattered shower and thunderstorm activity through the evening. Probably going to begin tapering once we get past 8 or 9 o'clock, but watching for just some scattered sprinkles still all the way through the overnight hours. Our temperatures are going to kind of hover in the 40s. We're not going to get that cold overnight, but we will be looking at cloudy and chilly conditions to start your Friday. Now, Friday is going to be a very interesting one. We'll begin chilly with a chance for a little bit of light rainfall, but it is going to break open. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be warmer. Highs in the upper 50s. If only it would stay that way for the rest of the weekend. I hate to bring some bad news, but it's going to get colder. We're going to have more about your weekend and talk about another big warm-up coming our way in just a little while.
Global debt surpassing $300 trillion. I'm Atrel Nashar with which countries hold the highest burden.
Now you can watch Fox 45 News for free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. A new report is sounding the alarm about the hundreds of trillions of dollars of debt held by nations around the world. Sinclair National correspondent Atra El-Nashar joins us live from Capitol Hill with a closer look at the problem.
Hey, good evening, Maxine. You know, here in Washington, we often hear officials warn about the dangers of the U.S.'s debt burden. But this new report shows how it fits into a bigger puzzle of global debt that officials everywhere say is a threat to global security over the next decade.
The world has a debt problem to the tune of $313 trillion. It's a new record and more than $100 trillion higher than it was just 10 years ago, according to the Institute of International Finance. The top contributors of a spike at the end of last year that brought the total over the $300 trillion mark: France, Germany, and the United States, which as of this week is $34.3 trillion in debt.
We have to resolve the fiscal situation, which is doing real damage to both our economy and our national security.
With higher taxes, experts say, or raising the retirement age.
What is the next generation and the next generation and the next generation going to have to pay for?
On the other side of the globe, in China, home to the second largest economy in the world, the debt to GDP ratio just hit a new record, carrying a debt load almost 3 times the size of its economy. A common source of pain everywhere is the sting of high interest rates as central banks around the world fight inflation.
We have to it's our job, it's what society has asked us to do, is to get inflation down.
Growth could be lower if the effects of monetary policy turn out stronger than expected.
Both the UK and Japan recently slipped into recession. Some nations in sub-Saharan Africa spend more than 7.5% of GDP on interest payments alone, more than they spend on healthcare and education.
It crowds out the ability of those governments to be able to put money to work for human capital, for climate, for infrastructure, for the things they need to put their country onto the right pathway.
Now back here in the U.S., newly released details of the Federal Reserve's last meeting shows that there are more Fed officials concerned about cutting rates too soon and risking a spike in inflation than there are those worried about the damage of keeping them high for too long.
And Atra, many were hoping for clearer signs of a rate cut. What did they point to for keeping interest rates so high?
Yeah, it was certainly an unpopular decision, but some of the latest inflation reports have just been hotter than expected, and the Fed has long said it will not cut rates until inflation is on a sustained path to 2%. Now, Fed officials acknowledge there's been a ton of progress made, but they're not confident that the factors that have led to that progress and brought inflation down are sustainable. So they essentially need more time. But this is important. They are confident the economy can handle it after defying expectations last year of a recession.
All right, Atra, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And as she just mentioned, most Fed officials are worried about cutting interest rates too soon. At the Federal Reserve's most recent meeting, most of the officials present noted the risks of moving too fast. Only 2 of them pointed to the risks of keeping rates high for too long. Fed Chair Jerome Powell explained the thinking when rate hikes first began around mid-2022.
If we were to over-tighten, we could then use our tools strongly to support the economy. Whereas if we don't get inflation under control because we don't tighten enough, now we're in a situation where inflation will become entrenched.
Since last July, rates have hovered between 5.2 and 5.5%, the highest in decades. It was meant to tackle near double-digit inflation. Investors have been pushing for rate drops for months, pointing to slower price increases.
All right, let's take a look at your triple cast. Of course, we've got the rain going across the area, some thunderstorms. You may even be seeing some occasional lightning here and there. So keep your eyes out and your ears. You may be hearing for the first bit of spring weather that we have around here as that. All right, let's talk about the next weather maker here, which the first one is happening now. The next one is going to be happening in about a week. However, we are going to see some changes with this one, okay? So we're getting the rain that you can see. It's falling on our lens here, looking right up here towards the Inner Harbor. And while it is a bit of on the chilly side, 43 degrees, we're going to start to see our winds creep things up as we move into your Friday. Our temperatures are actually going to rise a little bit more. First, let's get you through the rain and thunderstorms. Continue to watch the heaviest of that moving just past to the northern part of the bay up towards Elkton, Middletown, starting to see the end of it. Bel Air starting to see the end of it. But as you notice, back to the west, another area of rain and thunderstorm activity. We could continue to see a few more waves of this as we move through the evening, because here is our weather maker as it has begun to move across the area. We still have more weather to at least get from it and see as we move into your Friday. We have some changes going into the weekend as a result. So here we go through the night, still seeing the scattered showers, but we should see that tapering as we move past around midnight. So just a few light showers remaining after that point. Tomorrow morning will begin fairly cloudy, perhaps a stray shower to the south, but as you notice, not too chilly at all. We're likely going to begin in the 40s, maybe 50s, and then the afternoon we should see some periods of sunshine coming in. You might have noticed the green behind me. Looks like most of that will miss us off to the east, and Delaware is going to feel it more than we will. But as you notice, highs in the upper 50s. Yeah, that's a good possibility. The weather maker we're seeing now is going to stream in some south winds, and that's going to really bring our temperatures up for the afternoon. Not going to last long, and definitely not into the weekend. We'll see the sunshine as we move into your Saturday, but it's going to be a lot colder. That system's going to bring in some chillier temperatures as winds will shift out of the north. Highs may only reach the upper 30s to around 40. So that's your Saturday. And there it is. We're talking about some chillier air sticking around. Wind chill is going to be a bit of an issue, too. We're going to be feeling the winds gusting north-northwest around 10 to 20, making it feel like it's near freezing. So you can get outside and you can enjoy your weekend, but other than that, we're just going to have the sunshine around for your Sunday with the colder air. All right, so there you go. 42 for your high on Saturday at best. We may be stuck in the 30s for some places. Sunday, a few degrees warmer, but this is where the roller coaster really starts to climb the hill. Monday, high of around 60. Tuesday, 63. And as you notice, upper 60s. We'll be talking more about that here in the coming bit.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Early morning hail or possible graupel fell across central Ohio this morning. That cold front is now heading east and could bring snow to northern New England tomorrow. It's a little early, but bluebonnets are starting to appear in central Texas. They're usually a sure sign of spring. And it may look like fall, but this photo was taken yesterday as the sun set along Nevada's Carson River.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Most doctors are burned out. I'm Shanae Bowens in Washington with a look at how this can negatively impact you, and I've got a look at a possible solution.
Doctors are burned out, and many of them have even considered a career change. This could have serious implications for patients in need of care. Sinclair National correspondent Janae Bowens explains how AI could help.
Dr. Anand Parekh practiced internal medicine for many years. He gets why so many doctors are exhausted.
Staffing shortages, their reimbursement challenges, just the sheer administrative complexity related to electronic health records and billing.
A new survey from Athena Health shows 93% of doctors feel burned out on a regular basis, and 56% said they have considered leaving the field or no longer seeing patients.
It really affects the availability of when you can see your doctor, how long you can spend with your doctor, whether you can see the doctor that you want.
On a brighter note, 8 in 10 physicians believe AI could eventually reduce many of their problems. AI expert Dr. Lisa Palmer agrees.
I would like for people to think about artificial intelligence being their doctor's co-pilot, their doctor's assistant. It's not going to replace them. It's going to make their doctors' lives easier.